I have a pleasure today to talk to Art about his experience in soft skills, in sales, and then much more.
Whether you're pitching a product, negotiating a raise, or deciding which movie to watch, we all navigating the art of selling in one way or another. Welcome to Power of Soft Skills in Sales. I'm Evgeniy, your guide to unlocking the human side of selling. Here we explore the connection, communication, and collaboration skills that make interactions more impactful. Get ready for inspiring stories, teamwork tips, insight on trust, and actionable advice to help you sell smarter and connect deeper. Let's jump in.
Art, welcome to the show, and please tell us about yourself and what you've been doing.
Good to be here and welcome everybody that's listening or watching. My current role is to help sales professionals perform better, to help them increase revenue and win rate, margins, and client satisfaction. And it's through a variety of workshops and keynotes and Salesforce and Dynamics apps and things like that. But it's mainly about sales transformation for B2B consultative selling. So the really complex sales that are the business to business type sales.
Sales is one of these jobs that AI will not take it, we don't know, that require the interaction. The entire job is to talk to other people, and you mentioned B2B, so to other businesses, to explain the value of the product, to explain why they need to buy XYZ. And it doesn't matter if it's a vacuum cleaners, new CRM, cybersecurity, or something else. Would you agree?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing though, which is where it can get mixed up, is it's not about us talking about what we have, it's about finding out from them what they need. And based on their job title, for example, or other things, there's some things that we should probably be able to figure out in advance. And if anybody's been around your type of clients for a while, you probably know based on maybe job function or even what vertical that company is in, the typical things that they're going to have in their mind for goals and things like that. So, my direct client is going to be sales professionals and, of course, sales leadership. And that's a common goal they have is to achieve quota and things like that. So what I want to start to find out from them is, before I even talk about anything that I could do, is to find out where are their challenges, what have they tried, and what are the things they're looking for to improve. And that's the first part of it. That's what we want to do in terms of talking with them. Then we can start to think about how we propose solutions that would fit what they're trying to do.
And this is great. And you right away mentioned something important, that it's about the other person. It's about to understand. And it will be easy, quote unquote, if the salesperson can be like an interrogator, when they can put the customer and say, what do you
Mhm.
have? What do you do? What are you going to buy? But it doesn't work like that. They actually need to connect, need to understand. And a lot of people saying we're not actually selling, we're providing all the tools for the other person to buy from us, because we
Mhm.
want them to make the decision. And we don't make decision under stress, at least good decisions. And we make good decisions when we come and we understand what we're actually buying, because people want to avoid to buy something that it's not good for them. So how do we make the other person feel comfortable around us? I call it
Mhm.
soft skills. Some people now call it power skills. Some people call it human skills. How do you
Mhm.
define what are the skills? And what
Yeah,
and some
there's the
examples?
the
Yeah.
IQ, there's the IQ and the EQ and all the rest of that. Yeah, mainly, well, and it's interesting because I like to define sales as, anytime, and this doesn't have to be selling a product or solution. It could be convincing your significant other to do something, or it could be working with a community committee or whatever it is, where you're trying to understand what somebody's trying to do, truly solve their problem, and like you said, offer something that can help them out. So I like to put it in the category of persuasion and influence. And then I've heard, some people object to the idea of persuasion because that can sound like we're trying to trick them or we're trying to make them do something that they don't want to do. And that's where sales has gotten the bad rap. That's the bad reputation of sales, is the salesperson that's just trying to force you to do something and they make you feel bad if you don't do it. That's not what we're talking about here at all. That's the exact opposite. So when I say persuade or influence, what I mean is help them, like you said, avoid a bad decision about what to do, but also help them understand what the benefit is and reduce their perception of the risk. So this is where the persuasion comes in. It's not to persuade them to do something they don't want to do. It's to help them understand something and persuade them to maybe look at it from a different perspective. Many people, when they're doing, especially like cybersecurity or any big supply chain and other type of solutions, software and things like that, they're very afraid that they're going to make the wrong decision. And I like to look at it as like a scale. And the scale is that on this side of the scale tips this direction in our favor or in a good positive direction for everybody with value. So value is what can tip the scale in the right direction, where somebody sees that you can help them out. They're going to get something out of it. It's going to allow them to achieve business objectives and stuff like that. On the other side of the scale, though, what's working against us is the perception of cost of the moving forward and the perception of the risk of moving forward. So back to your question about what does it really take? Our solution actually doesn't matter that much. It's weird, but most of sales is about understanding the person, understanding where they're coming from, understanding what value they're going to get out of it, what does it mean to them personally, what's the business outcomes, and then helping them to alleviate and perceive that there's not as much risk as what they're thinking, and also the total cost of ownership, that it's worth moving forward with the solution. So it can get sort of complicated really quickly, but at the surface, it's what is the other person trying to do? And then we can help them through that decision process and get them a win-win outcome. So it's a win for them and it's a win for us. And that's the way it should be. Both parties should be satisfied when this whole thing is done.
Love your answer. Very, very good answer. Thank you very much. I'm sure people are going to listen and understand more about the process. Let's go to nuance. Let's go deeper. So, what's
Mm.
involved? Are we talking about empathy? Are we talking about tone of voice? Are we talking about active listening? There's so many different things that comes to this umbrella.
Yes, it is all of those things. I think that unfortunately, and there's two types of people involved with B2B sales or complex sales. There's the technical salesperson, sometimes called a pre-sales person, or a sales engineer, solution architect, those type of people. They have deep, deep knowledge of the solution. They're the ones that, can make it work and all that stuff. And they do typically the demos or presentations or proof of concepts. And then there's the salesperson, the account executive or the account manager, the sales professional that's in charge of the overall relationship, the terms and conditions, those types of things. And both of them working together is the most important thing. That's a big theme of what I focus on, is helping them work together seamlessly. Thus my book and so forth. However, let's peel that back a little bit. What's interesting with the dynamic is if you think about those personalities, they're quite different, right? An engineer type person is going to be about facts and figures and let's just get cut to the chase. And it's not about talking or getting to know you. The salesperson, it's kind of the opposite typically. And I'm generalizing, but typically a salesperson might be the opposite, where it's like, oh, yeah, all they really want to do is get to know you and have a coffee or a beer or take you golfing or whatever and all that. And they don't know the technology and they shouldn't need to know the deep layers of the technology. So what happens is this dynamic where they need to work together because the salesperson needs the pre-salesperson to show the technology, and yet sometimes their personalities clash. So if we separate out into those two, I think it's the, pre-sales understanding more about, yes, what is the person trying to do? What's the actual solution we're going to put in place? But I always like to recommend, for on the pre-sale side, think one layer higher. Think not just of the person you're working with, because it's probably going to be more of a technical person, very similar to them. And they'll probably get along fine. But the reality is that person that you're talking with, the client, they will need to probably recommend this somewhere up higher in their organization to their boss or whatever, or to their business decision maker who is going to be aligned with the salesperson. The sometimes it's called economic buyer. I don't really like that term, but many people can relate to that type of thing. It's the person who's allocating the funds and all that. So just like we need to, if you're pre-sales, have that bigger picture, we also want to make sure that the person we're working with can expand into that bigger picture as well. For the sales side, it's kind of the opposite. Sometimes they need to tone down the just doing the friendly stuff because you know the expression that people buy from people they like. And I would turn that around a little bit and say people probably won't buy from people they don't like, but they won't buy only just because they like you. So sales tends to work on the perspective of, well, if
So
I get them to like me, they will buy from me. But no, not quite. In fact, sometimes it's irritating if you try to do
too
that
much
too much.
fluff, yes.
Yeah. So there's
So
this a little bit of toning down and focusing on what really matters. And for technical, a little bit more of what the bigger picture is. And then it's that working together. So that's only like one layer of many, many layers that we could dig. But that's a fundamental one that will also help anybody in pre-sales or sales work together better as well.
what worked for you? How did you learn these skills? And is it particular skills that help you along the way?
It was the true curiosity. You know, that was the thing. I started as an engineer. I got into sales in my career when I was recruited by a software company. So I came in with the full engineering background. I have been implementing software solutions. So I was very familiar with the types of things we needed to try to do and what our company was doing with the solutions. So when I became more on the sales side, which started out in pre-sales, I just had the natural curiosity for those clients. You know, what were they trying to do? What problems are they solving? What's the best way that we could put that together? So I think really curiosity, and that should go for both. And maybe for pre-sales, a little more technical curiosity. For sales, a little bit more business curiosity, but a big healthy overlap in the middle. The big overlap in the middle. The other thing that I found and you know, I was really blessed with a bunch of great salespeople that I worked with is there was salespeople that knew that when we worked together better in pre-sales and sales, and when I was a salesperson, I did the same thing, that by sharing the information and by looking at each other as a true team, that things went a lot better. So what I tend to gravitate toward, and it was more like they gravitated toward me, was salespeople that got it. They understood. They really also were very empathetic toward the client and curious. And then they listened internally. So I think an agreement internally to listen really well, work things out together, and don't be afraid to speak up if you see something that's a little bit out of alignment because that can be bad for both of us.
It's
So
a very
it's
good advice.
internal
Yeah.
skills and then the skills with the clients. Yeah.
So you mentioned curiosity. Is anything else come to mind that help you along the way, or maybe even different when you teach your workshops? Do you
Mhm.
find a recurring theme that people are not thinking about it?
Yeah, well, the one of the main things is that every interaction that we have with a client or even with our salesperson or whoever we're working with in this sales process, the ecosystem, is a learning experience. And that experience isn't a one time and then, you know, you throw it away. Not just learning from that, but then taking that with us so that we can apply it the next time. This is why I say when you run into certain type of job titles. So if you're in cybersecurity, you know, the CISO or CISO, depending on how you pronounce it, that person has got always the same type of things on their mind. And we should be able to bring with us our experience of when we've encountered those other type of people. So we could be like, when we've worked with others like you, here are some of the things that they were concerned about. How does that compare to what you're doing? And right away, when we start bringing that, notice what I didn't do there is I didn't say, as a CISO, you should be doing this. I didn't say, as a CISO, here's our solution that can help you out. What I said is, when I've worked with others like you, and this is really
Yes,
key,
a good
when
one.
I've worked with others like you, here's what I've heard from them. How does that compare to you? Now, right away, that does a whole bunch of different things. For one thing, it puts me and the client on the same side of the table, and we're looking at a third party. And that's important because they'll be much more open instead of being defensive, like, oh, no, you know, why are you telling me that? Or that's not the way I work. I'm saying, how does this compare to you? And they can say the same, not the same, whatever. We can discuss that. The other thing we're doing is we're bringing credibility because we're showing that we have experience specific to them and we've done enough homework that we understand who they are and what they're probably about. But we're not assuming that it's true. We're asking for clarification. We're asking for are we empathizing correctly with them, essentially? And that builds trust. The other thing, the third thing is that it also gives them a little bit of FOMO. So I think we've all heard of FOMO, the fear of missing out. So if I've done this with others, boy, maybe they should want to work with me just like I've worked with others. So they're missing out on maybe something else. But it goes back to one of the points you brought up at the beginning of this, Evgeny, is that they also have FOMO, which is the fear of messing up. And that's where our empathy comes in, is help them to realize that, and that's that scale, right? The fear of messing up is going to weigh it down. Like, oh, I'm afraid to change because even though I see some value, that change just seems too much to me. We can bring our experience with others that have been through the same types of concerns as them, and then how we help the others do that. So that's
This
a
is
really,
great.
really good way to look at it.
So you mentioned something interesting about the other side of the table, or the same side of the table. I remember, and I spent a lot of time in consulting, every time we come to a customer, I'll make sure there's no like we here and they're there. I always kind of
Yes.
sit with the customer, make sure we all mingle and have a like good eye contact.
Right.
Now, when we on Zoom, Teams, Google Meet, what's really changed? Because the communication changed, the interaction changed. There's no more small talk when you're going from the parking lot to the meeting room. What really changed for you, and what maybe you adapted when you teaching people as well?
Right. Well, definitely. So everybody, LinkedIn is a big asset now and a big resource. So do just a little bit. You in 5 minutes, and this unfortunately happens to me sometimes just because I've run out of time, is that I'll be ready to get on a call and I'm like, who did I talk with and what was that about? But either with the notes that I've taken, and by the way, I highly recommend with Zoom, like my Zoom is hooked up with the AI. I happen to use otter.ai, and it records it so that I can then go back later and ask questions about it. So, what did I talk with Evgeny about when we met in December 8th or whatever? And then it can quickly help me to put myself back in that mode. So, being prepared is the big thing. Don't come on to the Zoom call totally unprepared. Understand who is it? What is, again, very simple things. What's their job title? That tells you a lot. What is their experience? So where have they been? We can see that in LinkedIn. And then what company are they in now and what vertical is it? Because the vertical matters as far as what types of things those companies care about. I was on a call not too long ago and I was doing some, demo analysis, and the salesperson that was presenting to this healthcare client. So it was a healthcare client. That's who they were. And the salesperson said, we've helped many healthcare, manufacturing, cybersecurity, IT, telecommunications. I'm thinking, why are you doing that? This is a healthcare company. Why don't you talk about when we've worked with other healthcare companies like you? Here's some things we've seen. How does that compare with your situation? So there's quick ways that we can get a rapport that's at a level that says, okay, yes, we're going to get to business, but it's not random. It's something that is a focus, and I'm bringing some ideas with me that would be of interest. Once again,
This
giving before you get. I like to say we turn the sell into a buy. So, and you mentioned that at the beginning, it's really more about helping them to buy. And it's also, instead of us pushing, it's about a pull. Make them curious. Oh, Art, you've worked with other healthcare companies. Tell me about that. What was that like? What are they doing? And then back to your point about the sides of the table. Unfortunately, I hear salespeople revert to, well, here's what we'll do on our side, and this is what you could do on your side.
yes, I
And it just
no
inadvertently
sides.
sets up this
Yes,
idea of sides. It's not a battle. We're not fighting against our customer. There's a famous book by uh, Sun Tzu, right? The Art of War. And
yes,
it's all about tactics that you could use in sales, but the tactics are not against the customer. The tactics are against do nothing. The tactics are against the competition. It's against, the things that you're trying to differentiate yourself from. So yes, win-win. It's all about win-win internally
agree.
and with the client.
Couple of last questions. So one, is any training you did along your way that really help you? Like for example, for me, I did Toastmasters. It really changed my life. Maybe something similar to you that really changed the way you communicate with people.
Wow. So there's two major ones. One was a long, long time ago when I was working at More Research and I was an engineer at that time. I was working with the actually with the CAD group and I was helping them with the implementations and things like that. But they put us through something called Total Quality Advantage. And if anybody remembers back in the days, the early days in ISO 9000 and stuff like that, Total Quality Management, or yeah, TQM was the buzzword. This was Total Quality Advantage. And it was very basic, but very important things like win-win. And I distinctly remember him saying, there's win-win, there's win-lose, there's win-lose, and then there's lose-lose. And the only thing that works is win-win. So that's an attitude and an approach that's always stuck with me. And then, interestingly enough, about 25 years ago, when I changed from selling and pre-sales and sales roles, I moved into sales enablement. And when I went into sales enablement, I took some training on how to train people. And it was really a good, generally applicable. In fact, I still have the diagram, not that anybody will be able to see this, but I still have the diagram from like 25 years ago about how to analyze. Now, here's where it relates to sales, since not everybody on this call might be doing training. It's all about what their needs are, right? Even when you're designing a training session, it's just like designing a presentation or a demo. So what this taught me was, and again, it kind of reinforced what I knew, but it formalized it. Understand what they are trying to get out of it. Adults are not motivated by being told something. Adults, our colleagues are motivated by outcomes. What's in it for me? And that's true whether it's your salesperson you're working with, whether it's your boss, or whether it's the client. What's in it for them? And if we keep that in mind and focus everything and narrow it down to what's in it for them, that's a really, really good head start. And they will appreciate that because they know that we care about them.
Really good. Last question. People that listening and based on your experience, if they can choose a course or kind of an angle on what to learn that really may impact and change them, what would you recommend? Or just give an advice in relation to communication and soft skills?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many good things out there. I would recommend my book, Making Seamless Sales, Making Seamless Sales.
We're gonna definitely put your book in the comments.
Well, all kidding aside, the reason I say that is because I've bottled up this 25 years of sales enablement and 10 years of sales based on my engineering experience. And I'm sharing this as more, somebody just the other day called it like my manifesto, which sounds a little evil, but it's my gift to anybody who wants to understand more about B2B sales. But I think anything that you could do that says the word consultative in it, solution, thinking about the other person, and win-win are all things that are going to be beneficial. So that's what I would suggest, and take that mindset of win-win outcomes for them. And you know what? Then the revenue will come for you, the success will come for you. It's not about you trying to do it at their expense at all. Doesn't work that
Sounds
way.
good. Art, thank you very much. A lot of golden nuggets here. So thank you very much. A lot of good information. And we're definitely going to make sure people know where to find you. But maybe you actually want to mention where's the best place to find you as well.
LinkedIn, I think, is the best. I'm the only Art Fromm that you could do LinkedIn/in/Art Fromm, and that's with two M's, Fromm. And then you'll see, check my website out, teamsalesdevelopment.com. Got tons of assets and resources on there, podcasts and webinars and articles and things that, just trying to share my knowledge and help others to succeed as well. So those would be the two main ways to get a hold of me.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.